A horrific spectacle, a mass slaughter, was what the Allied soldiers discovered when they entered the camps of Auschwitz on January 27, 1945. Concentration camps, gas chambers, human experimentations. The Auschwitz II-Birkenau camps were bloody hell. Let's get to the past and witness how these victims survive today. The Schutzstaffel, also referred to as the SS, turned Auschwitz I into a prisoner of war camp after Germany started World War II and conquered Poland. A group of Soviet and Polish captives were the first to be gassed in September 1941. The following month, construction of Auschwitz II-Birkenau camp started. Before November 1944, hundreds of thousands were killed here in enormous gas chambers, and their bodies were incinerated in crematoria. Most of the victims were Jews from all around the Nazi-ruled Europe. 420,000 of the 437,000 Jews Hungary deported to Auschwitz were dispatched there in just 2 months, from May to July 1944. Each day, Auschwitz received tens of thousands of Hungarian Jews. On arrival, they were all killed. The German government also executed at Auschwitz around 75,000 Polish citizens, 15,000 Soviet prisoners, 25,000 Roma and Sinti, as well as homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and political prisoners. The brutal regiment of the SS Death Head Unit guarded Auschwitz, which was initially headed by Camp Commander Rudolf Höss. A number of privileged inmates who promised to uphold the harsh camp rules in exchange for better treatment, better food, better living condition, and a chance at survival helped the staff and assisted in torture. 4 meters high, electrically charged barbed wire walls that were manned by SS troops, brandishing rifles and machine guns, encircled Auschwitz I and II. A string of guard stations that were 2/3 of a mile outside the fences further encircled the two camps. Jews began coming daily on trains in March 1942. Occasionally, numerous trains would arrive on the same day, each carrying 1,000 or more victims from Eastern European ghettos, as well as from Western and Southern European nations, from Poland, Slovakia, the Netherlands, Belgium, Yugoslavia, and Theresienstadt. Shipments arrived in 1942. Throughout 1943, Jews and Gypsies both kept coming. Jews from the final Polish ghettos to be exterminated were also sent to Auschwitz in 1944, along with Jews from Hungary. In Auschwitz, there were 105,168 prisoners as of August 1944. In the satellite camps of Auschwitz, there were another 50,000 Jewish captives. Despite the high death rate brought on by exterminations, malnutrition, labor-intensive tasks, and contagious infection, the camp's population continued to increase. Jews were ordered to form 2 lines, one for men and one for women, as they arrived at the station in Birkenau. They were then tossed out of the railway cars without their belongings. The notorious Dr. Joseph Mengele was one of the SS officials who would pick victims from these lines and send the majority of them to one side to die in the gas chambers. A minority was sent to the opposing side to perform forced labor. The people who had been sentenced to death were executed that day, and their bodies were burned in the crematoria. Those that were spared the gas chambers were transferred to quarantine, where their hair was shaved. Striped prison uniforms were handed to them, and they were recorded as inmates. Tattoos of their registration numbers were embarked on their left arms. The majority of captives were subsequently transported to perform forced work in Auschwitz I, III, subcamps, or other concentration camps, where they typically had a few months to live. Prisoners in quarantine only have a few weeks left in them. The daily schedule in the prisoner camp included a variety of tasks: getting up at the crack of dawn, straightening one's cot, morning roll call, the trip to work, long hours of hard labor, waiting in line for a miserable meal, returning to camp, block inspection, and evening roll call. No matter the weather, inmates were ordered to remain completely still during roll call, even though wearing the flimsiest of garments. Anybody who slipped or merely fell was doomed. Each prisoner had to devote all of his attention to enduring the day's torture in his or her own unique way. The Nazis' most effective means of extermination was the gas chambers in the Auschwitz complex. There were 4 chambers that could each kill 6,000 people per day. For the benefits of the victims, these were constructed to resemble bathing facilities. Upon arrival at Birkenau, newcomers were informed that they would be sent to work, but first required to take a shower and be clean. They would be led into the shower-like spaces, where they would be fatally gassed with the deadly Zyklon B gas. At Auschwitz, some inmates, including twins and dwarfs, were exploited as test subjects for cruel, fictitious medical procedures. They were either sterilized or subjected to excruciating temperatures during endurance tests. The torture continued until Soviet forces liberated Auschwitz on January 27, 1945. The majority of Auschwitz prisoners were made to march westward in what would later be referred to as death marches by camp staff in the weeks before the arrival of the Soviet soldiers. The soldiers were received like liberators by these detainees. The pressure of forced labor and the lack of food, along with months and years of abuse, left the small number of convicts who survived looking like skeletons. Many were so feeble that they had trouble even moving. Many of the camps had to be destroyed in order to stop the spread of epidemics, since disease remained a constant threat. The former Nazi camp still remains a dark chapter.